Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Free podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Francis. Today, very grateful, very humble to be joined by fellow Freedom from Self Sabotage coach, but so much more than that, too, Steve Frazier. He's the author and founder of Release the Coffee Cuffs. Coffee's a big topic, Steve. Welcome to the platform, mate. Happy to have you here.
Thank you, Nathan. It is my pleasure.
Tell me, my audience and my listeners, and also viewers, who you are, what you do, and yeah, how you got to where you are now as an author of a book about a drink that everyone drinks out there in society, mate. So let's hear a bit about your story and let's get into it.
Well, this journey started 13 years ago. And
Jesus.
my wife got sick and she got really sick. And we saw over 2 years, we saw 17 different doctors, which she ultimately just calls ologists because we saw every specialist out there. And in that 2 years, they took her gallbladder out and it was definitely full of sludge, which but then she was in the process of dying, and our daughter had just become a natural health practitioner and came over to our house and in 15 minutes looked at us and said, you have Lyme disease from the waist down.
Wow.
And then that was confirmed 4 days later by her mentor, my daughter's mentor. And so realized 2 years undiagnosed Lyme disease caused a lot of damage. And so again, her adrenals were almost dead, her thyroid was almost dead. And so we're still in the rebuilding process. But what happened is that as a result of that Lyme disease, she became celiac and she became grain intolerant and she couldn't eat any processed foods and she can't eat nitrates or nitrites. And so now you realize that there's not a lot of regular food left. And so everything, I mean, I make our meals from scratch. We eat basically organic or non-GMO. I buy meat from a farmer about an hour and a half from here. When I go down there, I can see the fields where they
Oh,
100%
wow.
grass fed.
Love that.
And so, and we're spoiled. I mean, I'm fortunate. I met the guy. And so I can go out there and I can see it. I know it. We test it, but she can eat it all. So we get roast steaks, a lot of hamburger, because we obviously use hamburger and a lot of stuff. In that process, she actually designed or created a pasta made from garbanzo beans.
Oh,
And it was non-GMO. And I actually had it non-GMO project certified. And I had 30 clients at one time, but it was a hobby. And if you know what hobbies are businesses that you do that you don't make money at. And so it was a hobby. I have two customers now. And so they're both local. I have a certain clientele that really are loyal customers. So that led us down the natural health rabbit hole. And at the same time, my oldest grandson was vaccine injured. And that's actually what got my daughter into the uh, natural health world. And she had and we're blessed that she was able to detox him. And right now, if you met him, you would never know that because he was on the spectrum for 2 to 3 years, the autism
wow.
spectrum.
Okay.
But there was heavy metals in his brain, and she got him out fast enough that she was able that he's a normal functioning. Now she has another son after that, who's 5 years younger and no vaxes and extremely healthy. And I know that I can talk about this with you because I understand that we are on the same page here. I don't need to go into the details, but so that natural health rabbit hole is a great thing. It was hard getting there because of the pain we had to go through. But then when I became certified as a self-sabotage coach and I looked at the physical pillar, we have the four pillars in self-sabotage: emotional, spiritual, financial, and physical. And I'm going to say these for your listeners. In the physical pillar, there is nicotine, alcohol,
Mm.
caffeine, drugs, prescription drugs, overeating, loss of sleep. These are things that we do to ourselves, and we all do them. We all have them. And I looked at this, and I looked at caffeine, and as I started to do the research, I realized that caffeine affects so many people, and most of them have no idea
Yep.
that their health is being impacted negatively. So last year I was sitting actually in the ocean with my wife, and I said, I want to do this thing. What should I do? And she said, well, you got two choices. You can get a PhD. She has a PhD. She's an online college professor. And I proofed all of her papers, so I knew the whole process quite well. And I went to all of her retreats with her. We went to DC, we went to Dallas, we went to Minneapolis. She said, so you can get a PhD or you can write a book, because I needed to be a subject matter expert, because otherwise nobody's going to listen to me. And so if you look at my book, as I speak to you tonight, I have over 300 references in the book. Very rarely will you hear me say my opinion. And when I do, I will actually say it. But otherwise, everything I talk about is just fact. It's objective fact. And so I said to her, I said, well, I'm not doing a PhD. I was pretty honest. So I'm not going through that. And so I said, I guess I'm writing a book.
Love it.
And I had the time of my life. I did. It's so much. I learned so much, because there's all these sayings, and Socrates said this a long time ago, you don't know what you don't know. And boy, when I started to research this was like the aha light bulb moments every day. Every day I'd have one. Like, holy crap, what's going on here?
Mm.
How is this? How does nobody know this?
Yep.
Well, as I dug deeper, I realized that caffeine is $1 trillion a year business.
Hmm.
Okay, that's almost beyond comprehension. That makes big tobacco like small potatoes.
Well
And
said.
so if
Mm.
you look at this, you realize that there's so much money involved that nobody's going to talk about it, because and everybody does it. And we know from our history of self-sabotage and being part of the herd, you know, I I as by writing this book, I alienated friends and family, not to the point where they don't talk to me, but I would hand them a book, and they would look at me, and the first thing they'd say to me is, "You aren't taking my coffee away from me."
Yeah.
And I have no desire. I have no intention of taking your coffee from you. I said, for a number of reasons. One, I can't. I said, because we all have free will and free won't. You control what goes in your body. I don't. And so I said, so that's the first thing. I said, I can't, and I have no desire to. And when we get into it, I have a micro mission statement that I'll get to
Yep.
at the end of the show. But so my role here is to give people information.
Yep.
My book is not anti-caffeine. And the book strictly tells people what caffeine is doing to them.
Oh yeah.
And it talks about men, women, teens, your adrenal glands, sleep. There's 16 chapters, 14 of them in the middle are all referenced. The first chapter, which I originally had as the last chapter, is called Anecdotal Stories. It's the first chapter in the book. And I was going to put it at the end because for entertainment value. And as I put it together, I'm reading these and I'm thinking to myself, I need to put this in the first chapter, because when you pick the book up and you read that first chapter, you will see yourself in there somewhere. And it's amazing. And they're all stories of people that quit caffeine. Okay. And what the result is. And of the 20 that I have in there, I could have put 100 in there, but that would have been a
Mm.
whole book. So I just did one chapter. Of the 20 people, 19 of them said without a doubt that a result of them quitting caffeine, they had the best sleep they had in their memories.
Wow.
And we're going to talk about sleep later on in the
Yes.
circadian rhythm process. But and the 19th or 20th lady said, well, I don't think it really had any effect on me. And you'll understand that she doesn't know what she doesn't know. Okay. And
That's
that
a good
is
point.
simply that if you drink caffeine throughout the day, your circadian rhythm is going to be messed up. Okay, so I'll a good way to start this is to tell you how I start my day and how my day goes, because that's a normal day, because I don't drink caffeine. I was habitual caffeine user when I was younger. I was in the restaurant business for 23 years, and back in that day we didn't have energy drinks, but we had cappuccinos, and I drank two-fisted 20-ounce cappuccinos at a time, two of them.
Jesus.
And because when we would open up a new restaurant, I had 6 different restaurants. I I fueled all day with caffeine, and we had a bar. It was a Mexican restaurant with a bar. So at night, I would have a tequila and a beer to go to
Yeah.
sleep, and then get up and rinse and repeat. And it's a vicious cycle. And when I say this, this is gonna strike home with some of the people that are listening here. One of the stories in that first chapter is a major influencer. Caffeine was destroying his personal life and his professional life, and he quit. And he went cold turkey, which I don't recommend, because
Mm.
I did go cold turkey once, well, twice actually, but because you realize after my wife got sick, and then 11, that was 13 years ago. So 11 years ago, I was traveling to sell demo this pasta that we were making. And I thought I was having a heart attack while I was driving the car. I had major, major palpitations. And so I'm 45 minutes from home. I called my wife. I said, I'm going to be home in 45 minutes. Take me to the ER. So we go to the ER, and they put me on an EKG machine. And every time I had this palpitation, the graph would go up. So the doctor comes in, and he says, you're going to be okay. You didn't have a heart attack. What you had is, they're called premature ventricular contractions,
Mm.
PCVs. He said, everybody has them. You just happen to be sensitive, and you're about 5 or 10% of the population is very sensitive to them. And it does feel like a heart attack. Okay. I mean, we're talking. And I said, so what causes this? And he said, well, stress. And I
Mm.
looked at him. I said, well, everybody's got stress. And then he kind of smirked at me, and he said, and caffeine. And
Yeah.
so, and I mean, I was loading up on caffeine in the car. I'm driving 3 hours to work for 6 hours on my feet, and then I got to drive 3 hours home. So I'm drinking coffee all the way there. I'm drinking coffee and energy drinks while I'm demoing, and then driving home. And so I'm loading. And so I quit. I quit caffeine, and I quit probably for about 2 years. But then, like every good addict, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, I can do this. I can have occasional caffeine. You've never heard that before of any addict. And I've done a number of podcasts now with addiction, about addiction, a recovered alcoholic, a recovered drug addict. And it's amazing, because this is all the same. The symptoms are all the same. You think you can handle it, and you can't, because it's more than just physical. It's psychological, it's social. So 2 years ago, I decided to just quit, and I quit cold turkey. And I had a headache. I had a headache that was so bad I thought I was going to die. Brain fog, fatigue.
Jeez.
So I called my daughter up. She's the natural health practitioner, and she's got a supplement for everything. It's all natural. I said, so what can I do here? She said, well, you just got to drink a lot of water, as much as you can. Get it, flush it out. She said, if you want to humor yourself, you can take some ibuprofen, because you realize she doesn't deal with drugs, any drugs, even over the counter drugs.
Love
She
that.
was saying that just to humor me.
Yeah.
She said the only thing that will take your headache away is caffeine. And that's because of the adenosine receptors. And we're going to get into that in just a minute. It's
Yep.
because that is crucial. Adenosine is crucial. So when I get up in the morning, now I'm off of caffeine. I wake up, I have a lot of energy, and I look at the sun, and now I get up in the dark, so I have a sun lamp. And what that does is that boosts my natural cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone, but it's naturally released in the morning to get your day going. And then I drink lemon water, at least 20 ounces, usually 20 to 30 ounces of lemon water. What that does is it rehydrates my cells, because we get dehydrated overnight. And then throughout the day, your cortisol level goes down, and your adenosine and your melatonin levels go up. And this is called the circadian rhythm. And we have unbelievably good bodies.
Mhm.
What we've done over centuries is just trash them,
Yeah.
right? With all the caffeine, alcohol, tobacco, processed food. And so the circadian rhythm is you wake up with energy and you go to sleep because your body says it's time to go to sleep.
That's it.
Now, what happens? Now, you realize if you talk to the normal average coffee drinker, the first thing they do in the morning, first thing
Hmm.
is have a cup of coffee. Now, you realize, first of all, they're already dehydrated, and now they're drinking a diuretic. And when you go to the bathroom, you're not just peeing out water, you're peeing out minerals too,
Hmm.
calcium, magnesium in particular. So if you don't supplement these, you're deficit. You're in a deficit, and days, weeks, years, decades, right? And so this is a bad way to start your day. And I will mention this. And so again, I'm not shaming you or judging you. If you listen to this and you stay on caffeine, I would ask you to, when you wake up in the morning, look at the sun and drink some lemon water. And then an hour later, have your coffee or your tea. Because now what you've done, and possibly some breakfast probably would be good. Because what that does then is that your cortisol now has naturally gone up. Because if you drink that coffee right off the bat, you're now messing with your circadian rhythm. And it unless you only have one cup, and if you have just one cup, like at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're probably going to be okay. But if you have anything by till noon or even after 2 o'clock, you're done. Your circadian rhythm's messed up. And the reason, okay, first of all, what happens when you have that cup in the morning? Three different things happen. The caffeine makes your adrenal glands kick in more cortisol than it's already going out. Okay. And cortisol it makes you feel good, gives you lots of energy, right? It also gives you a dopamine hit. Now, if you think about dopamine is a great thing in our bodies. It makes you feel good. You get a little buzz. Dopamine is the very, very low dose, natural dose of heroin, crack cocaine, whatever you want to call it. It's wonderful. Okay. The problem is that every time you drink caffeine, you get a dopamine hit. Well, what's the result? You want caffeine simply for the dopamine now. Okay. But then there's another thing that happens is that when the caffeine hits your body, you spike adrenaline. Now, this is great because adrenaline is fight or flight, just like the cortisol. But what does that do to your body? When your body kicks adrenaline in, it shoots glucose into your muscles. Because remember, you're in a fight or flight. You're running away from a tiger or a lion or a bear, or I don't know. What do you run away from in Australia? Kangaroos?
Yeah.
I don't I don't know. I
Kangaroos.
don't know. I mean, we got some bears up here that we could run away from,
That's
but
true.
we but
Crocodiles.
fight or flight, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a good one to run away from,
Yeah.
but always ways, right? Never in a straight line. I used to watch Crocodile
Yeah.
Hunter.
Steve Irwin. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes, right.
yeah. Mm.
So what happens is that all that glucose goes into your muscles, and you're not fighting or flighting. You are sitting at your table drinking coffee or tea. You are at your desk or you're at a coffee shop. And so your blood sugar now spikes. So what's the natural reaction to that? Your pancreas is going to kick out insulin. Okay. And every time you drink the caffeine, blood sugar goes up. Now, this is just black. Just think if you're adding cream and sugar.
Yeah,
You
true.
just think if you're going to Starbucks, my gosh, you drink that 16 or 20-ounce Starbucks, it's loaded with caffeine. A 16-ounce Starbucks probably has 150 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. God knows how much sugar, probably 40 to 50 milligrams of sugar, more than a whole day, right? So your pancreas is going to work overtime. Now, when that wears off, you're going to crash. So what are you going to do? You got to have some more. Okay. Very few people can say no. It's pretty rare.
Mm.
now we're going throughout the day. Now, naturally, your cortisol is supposed to be going down, but because you're drinking caffeine, it's staying elevated, staying up there where it was early in the morning. And then the adenosine is supposed to be starting to kick in. Adenosine is what puts you to sleep at night. Melatonin, a lot of people know about melatonin because you have melatonin supplements, but adenosine is really the big factor for putting you to sleep. And you have receptors in your brain, and the adenosine molecules go in there throughout the day and at night. They go in there and they put you to sleep. Unfortunately, the caffeine molecule is very similar to the adenosine molecule. And so when you drink caffeine, 15 to 20 minutes after you drink it, that caffeine molecule goes into your brain and it plugs the adenosine receptor. What happens? You don't get tired. You're wired, your brain. And if you keep drinking caffeine throughout the day, you just don't get tired. And it's very hard to go to sleep, and it messes with your circadian rhythm. So then at night, and don't when I talk about all these things, I can just hear people the wheels turning. Well, that doesn't happen to me, and that doesn't happen to me. No, it doesn't happen to everybody because everybody's different. We all process caffeine differently. However, you don't control what's going on in your adrenal glands and in your adenosine receptors because that's your body. Your body's doing that naturally. And so when you go to sleep at night, and just because you drink caffeine all day does not mean you don't go to sleep at night, because you do. Let's face it. Sometimes it will take you a little longer to go to sleep. But what it does is it messes with your sleep cycle. Now, this is a big deal because your normal sleep cycle there's 4 stages. The first stage is where you're semi-conscious and you're in a theta brainwave. And I think you're familiar with theta. That's what kids are from till they're about 7 years old. Bruce Lipton's done a lot of studies on that, a lot of YouTube videos. And adults actually are in theta right when you wake up and right when you go to bed. So, it's a great time. And this is just a tangent, but the best thing to do right before you go to sleep is show gratitude for your day, because that's what your semi-conscious is going to think about when you go to sleep, because you're in a theta and you're reprogramming your subconscious to gratitude, and gratitude is a wonderful thing. So anyway, that was a tangent. We're going to go back to the cycle, the stages. So the first stage is about 5% of your cycle, and then the second stage is you're basically, and that's 40%. You're just sleeping. Your brain's moving around a little bit. But the third and fourth stages are the crucial ones, because in the third stage is where we heal. And that's where men produce testosterone, women produce estrogen. We repair muscles, we repair cells. And stage 4 is REM sleep, deep REM sleep. And that's where we dream. Your subconscious is doing some repair work in your brain as well. Now, what caffeine does is it delays the activation of stage 3 and stage 4, and it also shortens them. Normally, they're 20 to 25% of your cycle. Caffeine will, when your cycle is disrupted, it will actually change that to maybe 15 to 18% instead of 20 to 25%. So what does that mean? That means that when you get up in the morning, now, one important thing is that those 4 stages, they happen 4 to 6 times a night. So it doesn't go just 1, 2, 3, 4. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, 4 to 6 times a night. So if you have shortened stage 3 and stage 4 every time you go through this, you're tired when you wake up. So, and you're also starting to withdraw from the caffeine you had 12 to 18 hours ago. What do you got to do? You're going to start to get an adenosine headache. Why do you get a headache when you quit caffeine? Ask me that.
Why do you get a headache when you quit caffeine, Steve?
Very good. You take direction well. Because nobody knows. Nobody understands
No,
why.
no.
It's because, remember I talked to you about the caffeine molecule plugging the adenosine receptor?
Yeah.
Well, it's not plugging the adenosine receptor anymore. And actually, if you drink a lot of caffeine, your brain actually creates more adenosine
That's
receptors
true.
because it
Yeah,
wants to rest.
correct.
Well, now there's nothing plugging them up. So guess what? You have a massive blood flow to your brain. And that's where you get the headache from.
Mm.
And that headache can last anywhere from 12 days, 12 hours to 9 days, even
Jeez.
10 days. And, and if people are going to quit cold turkey, I tell them right out, do it on a Friday because you're not going to talk to anybody for at least 2 or 3 days because
Mm.
you're going to be so crabby and you're going to be so brain fogged and so fatigued and your head's going to be killing you. And there's nothing you can do because the only solution is to drink caffeine because that's what's going to plug those receptors. So now what's what's unique about caffeine is that it affects men and women differently. And for men, it can what first of all, it'll raise your blood pressure and you can really get in a big problem here. And then they'll put you on medication. And then you got another medication to take care of that medication. But what it also does is that because of your cortisol boost, cortisol and testosterone do not get along. So the more cortisol that you have in your body, remember every time you drink caffeine, your cortisol goes up.
Hmm.
You're not gonna produce testosterone. And also, men produce testosterone in their stage 3 sleep. And it affects the the sperm of a man, and it fractures it so it doesn't have the mobility or the motility, and so they don't swim right. Okay, that's to put it bluntly. You're and so now the woman, she's got all different issues because women have a lot more hormones, and a lot of them are regulated through the adrenal gland. So a woman will as she drinks caffeine and everybody's different, but they'll have more anxiety and they're going to get less sleep, so they're going to be crabbier than they normally would. But what's ironic is that caffeine is affected differently by the cycles in the menstrual cycle. And I was at this retreat a month ago with 17 women, and I'm at the breakfast table with 3 girls, and we're just chatting. We're chatting about the book. I gave them all a book, and I looked at him. I said, I may know more about your menstrual cycle than you do.
Oh.
I got a lot of what
Mm.
because depending on where you are in your menstrual cycle, you process caffeine differently. So if you're in the luteal phase, which is from 14 days to 28 days, right before you have your period, you process caffeine 70% slower.
Jeepers.
So the normal half-life of caffeine is 5 to 8 hours. So you take 70% onto there, you now have half-life of 8 to 12 hours. So if you have a cup of coffee at noon, and I'm not even talking about afternoon, okay? But if you have a 150 milligram cup of coffee, and that's probably average, you still have 75 active milligrams of caffeine in your system at 10 o'clock at night. What's that doing? You're wired. You're not
Yeah.
tired, right?
Yep.
You're still wired. Okay. Now that also relates to birth control pills. It's the same thing. You process differently. It's because of estrogen. Birth control pills put extra estrogen into your body, as well as in the luteal phase. That's where you have your highest estrogen levels. And so I say this because it's important that they realize that when they go through their cycle, in the first 2 weeks of their cycle, they can drink caffeine and they'll process it normally. And caffeine is processed in the liver, and it's processed through an enzyme called the CPY1A2. No quiz on that.
Yeah.
So no quiz, but it produces up to 95% of the caffeine. It processes 95% of the caffeine. Well, again, every woman is different and every person is different, but because of the estrogen level, now it takes them longer to process the caffeine, so it just stays in their body longer. Now, you take the man who is drinking caffeine and the woman that's drinking caffeine, and they're trying to have a baby. Now, when I talk about these things, they are not the only reason that any of this happens, but they can lead to these things. So if you're trying to conceive and you're having a problem and you're both drinking caffeine, it could be the caffeine. It could be a contributor.
Mm,
So the suggestion I make is stop drinking caffeine for a while and see if you can get pregnant. Okay. Now, and we both know that people that drink caffeine get pregnant. So realize that I understand that
mm.
because it happens every day.
Yep.
There's 8.5 billion people, and probably 6 billion of them are drinking caffeine every day. So you know, something like that. It's probably about that, right? Probably
Mm.
about that much. So now, what happens when mom gets pregnant and drinks caffeine? The baby gets everything that the mom takes because caffeine crosses the placental barrier and the blood brain barrier. And so baby is getting all this caffeine. And remember, I talked about the CPY1A2 enzyme? That enzyme does not develop in a baby until it's 3 to 6 months old.
Wow.
So in the womb, the baby is holding on to all of the caffeine. Now, you don't have any kids, right?
No.
No. And I have two kids. I was there. I watched them both be born. They cried. My wife wasn't drinking caffeine, but I want you to I want you to imagine a baby being born and the baby's mom's been drinking caffeine the whole 9 months, 9.5 months. And now 12 hours later, the baby's not getting caffeine anymore. What
Oh.
happens? The adenosine receptors open up, right?
Mm.
Baby's got a killer headache. What's
Yeah.
the baby going to do?
Cry.
It's going to
Scream
scream
the
bloody
house
murder.
down. Scream the house down. Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
And what do the doctors say? What do the nurses say? Oh, that's normal.
Give them
Now,
a
I know babies cry even if they're not on caffeine, but
yeah. Give them a Panadol, which is in Australia, Tylenol over there.
right. Yep.
Mm.
So, when you look at moms when they go into hospitals and they're addicted to drugs, I don't know how bad it is there in the States. It's regular.
Yep.
What they do is they detox the babies after they're born because they're going to go in withdrawal, heavy withdrawal. And
Mm.
it literally can be lethal or deadly if you just cut somebody off from drugs that's been on drugs for 9 months.
Mm.
Nobody ever talks about that when they talk about caffeine. They don't talk about caffeine. And one of the reasons they don't talk about it is cognitive dissonance.
Yep.
And I think you're familiar with this. I'm going to
Oh.
explain it just for the listeners,
Yep.
okay? Cognitive dissonance is, and you can add to this if I miss something, okay?
Yep.
But it's when you get information that completely goes against everything that you've ever learned or believed. And so you refuse to acknowledge it because it can't be true because that's not what I've known all my life.
100%.
How did I do?
Yeah,
Did I do
summed
okay?
up, yeah, pretty much summed up the entire system
Exactly.
and the
Right.
people in it when you tell
So
them that it's not right.
yeah. So ironically, you realize 80% of people drink caffeine. So 80% of doctors probably drink caffeine. Could it be even higher because they have high stress jobs? They need a lot of energy.
And that's true.
They don't look for symptoms of caffeine because if they don't have them, my patient couldn't possibly have
Yep.
them. And I have documentation in my book about guys going in for surgery. They couldn't do surgery because the guy was in such caffeine withdrawal that he was in so high stress. And then they put him on caffeine so he could have surgery. And then they have to put him on caffeine when he gets out because he'll have withdrawal. Okay, so we'll go back to mom now. So caffeine, how else does it affect the baby? Well, documented facts, caffeine can lead to low birth weight, can lead to miscarriage, and can lead to stillbirths and developmental growth, ADD, ADHD. So when you look at this now, I have two miscarriages and a stillbirth in my immediate family. I have two grandchildren that aren't here because my daughter-in-law had miscarriages. I'm not saying it was from the caffeine because we don't know what it is. But my micro mission, I talked about this to you before we started to record. I understand that I can't make anybody quit drinking caffeine. But if I can influence you or someone you know to share these facts with a pregnant woman to get her to quit drinking caffeine while she's pregnant, I have accomplished everything that I ever set out to do in life. Because somewhere down the road, I'm going to save a baby's life
Mm.
because they won't miscarriage or they won't stillbirth. And I don't know what the percentage is, even if it's 1 in 1,000, if you're that one, it's a big deal. If you're the family that has and that's more than 1 in 1,000. I think there's miscarriages are pretty common. I don't
They
know what
are.
the I don't know what the percentage, but and how many are influenced by caffeine? Probably some of them. So my mission is to share information. And then if you know somebody that has high blood pressure, if you know somebody that's trying to conceive a baby, if you know somebody that
I do.
that wakes up in the morning and don't talk to me before I have a cup of coffee. I do a presentation. I don't know if you've ever seen this commercial, waking up to Folgers in your cup. It's an old classic in the States, and it's got mom, and it's got a catchy little tune. I mean, the jingle is fantastic. Anybody over 40 years old in the United States knows this jingle. They played it that often. Well, I play it in one of my presentations, and mom goes in the kitchen. She's brewing the coffee. They take a picture of the beans. They look absolutely delicious. They're perfect. There's no mold. There's no toxins. They're perfect coffee beans. You can smell the coffee. I talk about this. When I talk about this to people that drink coffee, I give them a dopamine hit just talking about it.
Yeah.
Because dopamine actually is released mostly before you actually do the act. It's the anticipation of doing something that releases the dopamine.
That is so true.
So so mom takes 2 cups of coffee and she goes into the bedroom. And dad's on the floor, and he's in the floor between two twin beds. And she hands him a cup of coffee. He's got this big grin on his face. You can see the mythical fumes coming off the coffee. They both take a sip. Oh my gosh, we're in heaven. And then all of a sudden, 2 little boys come out, jump out of the beds, and they go around dad and they give him a hug, and then they have a big group hug. And I'll tell you what, you're feeling so good about life, you just want to have a cup of coffee. I want to have a cup of coffee. You want to have a cup of coffee. Now, here's where the programming comes in, and you can relate to this because this is where it starts. Do you realize that those 2 little boys, and they're probably 4 or 5 years old, 4 and 6, or 3 and 5, they're young. They're looking at mom and dad. Now, this happens every day, all around the world. They don't have the group hugs, but they're drinking coffee, and mom's got the cup in her hand that says, "Don't talk to me before I drink this,"
Of
whatever.
course. Yeah.
You know, you know. So those little boys and every kid that's seen their mom and dad drink coffee in the morning, they're being programmed to believe that coffee is the key to success and happiness and successful parenting. And that's programming. And you've seen the videos. You and I've seen so many videos. I'm just going to name a name, Darren Brown.
Hmm.
Okay. And he does some ones called the push ones. I have a new one that he just put out called the heist. He gets 3 people to rob an armored car.
Mm.
They were in a management seminar through different cues. They can make us do anything we want, anything they want if we don't pay attention.
That's true.
And so the caffeine thing, Coca-Cola doesn't even talk about the drink anymore. I mean, they have polar bears. They have a song at Christmas that everything is great is better because you drink Coca-Cola. Okay. It has nothing to do with soda. You know, I drink decaf coffee every day, almost every day. And with a caveat, first of all, it's organic. So there's no pesticides or herbicides. And I also drink it's Swiss water processed. And I'm going to send you some links you can put in the show notes. One's tools and trackers for people that want to track how much caffeine they're eating, and then if they quit, or drinking, I'm sorry, if they want to quit, there's seven different uh, trackers. But then there's also another section that's got what they put in your coffee, but one is Swiss water process. And what that does is they take the caffeine out with water. It takes out 99.9% of the caffeine. And so amazingly, and I don't know if how much you are on social media, there's a gentleman that he sells bullet coffee and danger coffee. Dave Asprey is his name. He's a biohacker. And I saw a reel of his just last week, and I dug into it because he made the statement in 47 seconds. He made two statements. He said, if you drink 4 to 5 cups of coffee a day, you're going to live longer than everybody else.
Mhm.
And he said, Americans, now this is Americans, so I can't speak for the rest of the world. Americans get 67% of their antioxidants from coffee. And so I went on a deep dive, and this is just in the last 10 days. And so the first statement he made was just complete BS because there's no documented study. There's causal studies, causation, but no randomly controlled trials. The second statement is actually somewhat true. And that is because people in the United States eat so little food that have antioxidants, and they drink so much coffee that they get 67% of their antioxidants from coffee.
That makes
This
sense.
actually makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense
Mm.
because they're not eating anything that has antioxidants. Kale, blueberries, there's a whole bunch of them, but blueberries are pretty tasty. Kale is good if you like it, I guess. Now, the key here is that the studies that have been done, and there's some big studies, and they're all causal, there's no randomly controlled trials, is that yes, there are health benefits to drinking coffee. However, all of the studies done state that they did these studies half caffeinated and half decaf, and the results were the same. What does that tell you? Caffeine is nothing to do with this. It's the polyphenols and the other things that are in the coffee. Okay, because if you're getting the same benefits from decaf, it's not the caffeine that's doing it for you. It's the stuff that's in the coffee.
Yeah.
And you want to be careful. Regular decaf still has 10 to 15% of caffeine in it. And it's also, the caffeine is taken out with chemicals. So you not only have the herbicides and the pesticides, but you also have chemicals. That's why I drink the Swiss water processed. I still get the polyphenols, but I don't have any of the garbage. And I put all kinds, I don't like the taste of coffee, so I put all kinds of stuff in it. I put protein powder, I put turmeric, I put cacao, I put coconut oil. I put this all in my coffee. Well, it's a great way to get all this stuff in. And I put a little stevia in there, so it's sweet. And so that's after my lemon water. So the fact is that marketing said, and this guy, he's a multimillionaire. He's incredibly successful. And when people see this, they believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no foundation for this. And you'll see that most of the studies where it says caffeine is actually good for you, there's no randomly controlled trials, but they're all funded by something that's associated with either the soda industry or the coffee industry. In all the research that I've done, and I looked at a lot more than 300 articles, even though that's over 300 that I have in the book. The fact is that there's not a documented study that shows that caffeine has any health benefits. Now, here's a fun fact to know and tell. They take the caffeine out of the coffee bean to make a decaf, right? So I'm not going to ask you, I'm going to give you the answer, but I'm going to ask the question. Where do you think the caffeine goes?
That's a good question.
Yeah. And you know what the answer is? It goes into soda and it goes into energy drinks.
Of course it does. Oh,
because caffeine and coffee is bitter. And caffeine is actually a natural pesticide to
yeah,
keep the bugs from eating the bean and the
correct.
plant. And so it's bitter. And when people tell me that they love the taste of coffee, you know what they love, Nathan?
What?
They love the dopamine hit. They love the
Yeah.
adrenaline hit. Okay. And that dopamine is making them think that it's the taste of the coffee. And it's probably not.
Oh,
I'm sure
that's
there's a couple masochists that
mm,
like bitter coffee. Okay. But that's
mm,
that's the exception.
yeah.
So what they do then is they put this bitter tasting thing and they tone it down so it doesn't have any flavor and they put it in the soft drinks. Why would you do that? Because then you become addicted
Yeah, it's
and then you
true.
drink it all the time. I mean, how many people, and I'm sure I did a podcast a month ago with a college junior, and she did 15-minute podcasts, and she'd done like 100 of these, and I got my 15 minutes, and she admitted to me at the end of the 15 minutes, she said, I don't know one person that doesn't drink caffeine.
Yeah.
She doesn't know a person that doesn't drink caffeine. And she looked at me and she's very honest. She said, I will tell you that I am going to reevaluate my relationship with caffeine after talking to you.
I love that.
I mean, she didn't make a blanket statement that she was going to quit, but I gave her enough things to think about, you know, just the fact that caffeine messes with your menstrual cycle and makes your menstrual cramps worse. You should take that into consideration.
Mm.
Here's another fun fact to know and tell. The major PMS medications have 30 to 60 milligrams of caffeine in them
Jesus.
in each pill because it's a painkiller. It
Yeah.
makes you the dopamine, the adrenaline.
Yep.
Okay, but what it's also doing is it's messing with your cycle. It's messing with your cramps. It's not going to relieve them. It's going to make them worse.
Mm.
Okay, I'm not trying to discourage anybody here, but if you're having, obviously I'm talking to the women here. Okay, but if you're having severe cramps every month and you're drinking a lot of caffeine, you may want to consider this. Now, people say, well, I'm not addicted to caffeine. And I say, that's okay. I'm not telling you you are. I'll tell you one thing. You quit for 12 to 24 hours.
Yeah, you'll
And if you
feel it.
have none of the symptoms that I talk about, you're not addicted to it.
Yeah. 100%.
And 99% of them are going to have those symptoms. My daughter, I told you, she's a caffeine drinker and she's a natural health practitioner. She went to a seminar in New York City 3 weeks ago for a new supplement line. And what they do is they do testing. And she was partnered up with a chiropractor, and he tested her, and he told her that her second biggest sensitivity was caffeine.
Wow.
That's on a Sunday. That's on a Sunday. So on Monday, she calls me up. She's telling me all about it. She's excited because they've got some really good stuff, and she learned some new stuff. She said, "Yep, I'm going to go down. I'm going to go to 75 milligrams of caffeine a day." And I said, "Hold on." I said, that's a bold statement. It's a great virtue that you want to do that, but let's kind of look at what you're doing right now. So we started to add up her caffeine use, and that's why when I give you this tools and trackers, the first thing you always need to do is analyze your problem, right? How much are you actually consuming? So we started adding it up. She's doing a minimum of 240 milligrams of caffeine a day, probably 3 to 350. And she said, I'm going to go to 75. She's going to crash. So I said, here's what you do. First week, you go to 150. Second week, you go to 100. Third week, you go to 50. Now your body is gradually getting used to this. And then you see it, you quit and see what happens. Maybe
Mm.
go to 25. 5 days ago, I talked to her almost every day. She's our primary health caregiver, right?
Yeah.
So, but other than the fact, which is really good for us, she forgot to have coffee in the morning. She forgot for whatever reason. 11:30 in the morning, she got a splitting headache. And she looked at me and she said, Dad, I forgot to have my coffee this morning. That's how fast it kicks in. And so again, in the book and in my program, we don't recommend cold turkey. You taper. You can taper as long as you want. You can taper 8 weeks. It can take 10 weeks. It doesn't matter. But you have to have a plan. It's like everything else in
Yeah,
life.
100%.
If you don't have a plan,
Well
because
said.
the physical part, I'm being really honest here, is actually the easiest part. Because after that, staying off of caffeine is hard because of emotional thing, a habit, and social pressure. And that's where you and I have something really in common because we know what it's like not to be in the herd.
100%.
Because you and I are rebels. Jason
Hmm.
is a rebel. Okay. People criticize him all the time. We both see it. Okay. Oh, yeah. He doesn't know what he's talking. He absolutely knows what he's talking about. We know what we're talking about. You just don't like what we're telling you.
And that's true.
Cognitive dissonance. I
Yep.
mean, how often when you deal with your clients, they don't like what you want to, what you have to say,
That's
but you're
true.
not there to make them happy. You're there to help them, right?
Mm.
With whatever self-sabotage thing that they have. And so what we do is we do our best. I did have a gentleman pick up my book one Friday night. He quit caffeine the next day, and that was 6 weeks ago, and he's still off of it. And I talked to a guy from Ireland this morning, literally. He got the book, he quit caffeine. Whenever he feels so good, he said his sleep is so good now. And he said, whenever I struggle, I just go in and I look at what I should do. We do a lot of breathing.
Yeah,
There's
good.
four or breathing exercises, supplements, supplementals with herbal teas, herbal coffees. Uh, well, like the Swiss water processed decaf is a great alternative because you're still going to get it still tastes like coffee,
Mm.
but you're not getting any of the bad stuff, especially particularly if it's organic. And so ultimately, my message is to spread information. It's a message of love because perhaps you know someone that's being negatively affected by caffeine. And if they have some of these facts, they can then look at their life and make a decision and say to
Exactly.
themselves, you know, and perhaps that someone is you,
Mm. I love that, mate.
you know, you know, and I kind of leave it there. I
And
can't. Oh, I got one other thing I want to tell you. What
I've got a
else? What
couple of
I do?
questions for you.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
We've got these things. I remember I brought up free will and free won't.
Yep.
That's what I call a Brendaism. That's my wife. She's got these wise words. Well, she's got this thing, and this is kind of where I am in my mission. Is you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
True.
However, you can make it thirsty.
Yeah.
And my role is to make people thirsty for information about caffeine.
Mm.
Okay, so fire away.
Here we go. I love that last bit there too.
Thank you.
Question time. So people drink cacao, and you mentioned that earlier. A lot of
Yep.
people ask me because I do the same thing as you do. I've read the book Caffeine Blues, which we'll put in the
Yep.
show notes as well, and your book as well,
Sure.
as some resources, and you've got some other links to resources too. So a lot of people will then go, "Can I have cacao?" And I go, "Well, there's caffeine in cacao too."
Yes, there
Yes.
is, and it's smaller than It's smaller than coffee.
Yeah, because
Okay,
sometimes I'll say to
and
people, maybe drink that instead of the coffee to help you wean off it because it's got less in it.
yes,
Yes,
exactly,
but should we be drinking
exactly,
that
and
as
then
well?
not every day, and not
No,
not all day. You could
no.
drink if you drink one in the morning, you're probably going to be fine.
Yep.
Okay, you know, caffeine in itself, if you drink caffeine 2 or 3 times a week, not in a row, your body just processes it through your liver.
Yeah.
Okay, and it just goes away. You just methylate. It's gone.
It's the
It's that
everyday.
everyday thing.
Yeah,
It's that
gotcha.
it's chronic.
Yep.
And so if you drink cacao, I put a half a teaspoon of organic cacao in my coffee. Okay, and I looked at it, and it's got probably that half teaspoon is probably about 6 to 8 milligrams of caffeine.
Mm.
I'm okay with that because it's a superfood. It's got a lot of good
Yeah, it
things,
is. Yeah.
and I can use it. I'm 68. I'm healthy. I'm on no meds.
You look healthy
You
from
know,
this Zoom call.
and well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I feel great. And again, I wake up every morning. I've got a lot of energy. I mean, it's 9 o'clock at night here, and I've still got a lot of
I
energy, and I
love that,
haven't
man.
drank any caffeine. And I got up at 5 o'clock this morning, and so and I'm still going, and
My
I can go.
dad's my dad's
I can
around your age, Steve.
yeah, I can go as long as you want. I'll be
Yeah,
honest with
my
you
dad's
because
around your
I.
age, so I'm hoping he
Oh
listens to
yeah,
this. Yeah.
yeah. So
Uh
I would say I'd say be careful with it, and also make sure you drink organic,
yes.
and because of all the crap that's in the
Hmm.
non-organic.
That's
So
true.
and then how much, right?
Yep. So people
Okay,
will then say, okay, well, I get that some of our bigger franchises here in Australia, as the Raffas, and there's a few of them, and they'll go, oh, I know that's bad, but I'll go down to my local health food shop or my local cafe, and they'll go, oh, well, that coffee's better. It's like, well, because they say it's sourced locally, and
right.
they'll go to the health
Yeah,
food store and they'll say it's organic, and they'll say, oh,
yep,
well, that's better than the
yeah.
franchise. So let's clear up that myth too. So is the health food store better than the franchise? And then is the local cafe down the road better than franchise?
That's a great question, and
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an oxymoron answer. How's
Oh,
that? So you can try to figure this out.
yep.
It's all bad.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I say.
and and
Yeah.
and 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 the only thing better about drinking it or getting it possibly at your health food store is if it's organic. Okay, because at least you won't get the pesticides and herbicides.
That's what they say.
Okay,
Yeah.
but but at the end of the day, caffeine is a molecule. Okay,
Yes.
and it doesn't matter what it's in because you realize a regular candy bar can have up to 80 milligrams of caffeine in it, a
Mm.
chocolate bar. And if you start eating big chocolate bars, it can be 100, 150. Well, that's like a cup of coffee or a big cup of coffee. And so I can tell you, yes, it's better to go to the health food store and buy the organic coffee, but it's still bad for you because it's got caffeine in it.
Exactly.
And the caffeine, and again, it's in moderation, it's not going to hurt you. And again, if you drink it 1 cup early in the morning, it may not even mess with your circadian rhythm. But when you start drinking it at noon or afternoon from 12 to 5,
Yeah, it's bad.
and I had a guy, I was on a podcast last week, and he told me he drinks a Diet Coke at 11 o'clock at night and he sleeps great. Well,
Jesus.
good for you. Good for you. But I'm telling you that your stage 3 and your stage 4 sleep suck. Okay.
Yeah, you're not getting
because
the proper
because
rest.
you Right. You're just not getting the rest. And so
Nah.
what's he doing in the morning? He's drinking a Diet Coke first thing when he gets up in the morning because he's got
Oh
to have some juice,
man,
man. He needs
man.
energy.
Mm.
And I've done 28, 29 podcasts now. And that was the only guy that really pushed back on me. And ultimately I just said, that you're the exception to the rule. I
Yeah.
don't discount that you're going to sleep. I'm not going to call you a liar. I don't know. I can't tell when you go to sleep at night, but it's not good for you.
No.
Okay. And he tried to tell me that it was good, that it wasn't harming him. Well, I know better because I've got hundreds and hundreds of people, references, doctors, and telling me that it's bad. Right.
I.
It's not my opinion.
Mm.
It is,
No.
my opinion here
Yep.
of this whole thing, this whole conversation is if you're pregnant, please don't drink caffeine. I will ask that.
Yeah, I've got some people in my circles trying at the moment, and I know that they drink caffeine, so I hope they tune in. I'm gonna send them this one when this goes
Yep.
up, and send
Yep.
them
And
the information
have
that.
have them
Yep.
send me an email.
I
They can go to the
will.
website or
Yep.
have them send me an email. I can help them. I,
Mm.
I I don't need to get paid to help people. Okay. I'm going to ultimately help a lot of people and ultimately will be very successful doing this through book sales, through coaching, and through speaking.
Mm. I
Because I have a
appreciate it.
lot there's even though there's a lot of people that don't want to hear what I have to say, there's also a lot of people that do want to hear
Oh,
what I
I
have
want
to
to hear what
say.
you have to say. That's why I got you on.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Steve, I really appreciate your
Okay.
time for this, mate. You sent me a message, and I've been watching you from afar. And the odd occasion, you'll share one of my posts, and I really appreciate that too. And yeah, you said some beautiful things off air to me as well, so I really appreciate you. And appreciate Jason and the coaching community he's found, and it's got some really awesome people in it. You're just another one now, so I really love the connection we've made here, mate. And I'm going to send this podcast out to some people in my circles and the information that you have to be able to help
Excellent.
them because they do drink the caffeine and they're trying for a baby. So it's interesting that this
Yep.
podcast has come up at the right time. So, Steve, where can people find you, mate, if someone's interested in your work? I know there'll be stuff in the show notes, but just right now, where they kind of find you.
Our website has everything. It's called Release the Coffee Cuffs, KUFFS.com.
Yep.
And you can get the book there. It's also available on Amazon. It's available on Kindle. Over the winter, I'm going to do an Audible version. I'm going
Oh,
to actually read it. So
okay.
it's going to take me a little
It's
while.
going to
I
take a
mean,
bit.
there's a lot of pages there, and
Oh,
then
man.
but I'm going to do it because I have two kids. I have
Yeah.
a son and a daughter-in-law that said, "Well, I won't buy the book, I won't read it, but if you do an Audible, we'll get it and we'll listen to it."
68 years old and
Well,
you're making shit happen, mate. Well done to
yeah.
you. Being 68 and still chasing the dreams. It's just a
And you know what?
beautiful thing.
Why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I want to still be doing this at this pace in 15 years.
I, I love that. I love
Why
that.
would I not want to do that? Right? You
Mm,
know, I have a short story. My dad passed away 15 years ago, but I used to golf with him and his friends 30 years ago, and they were in their 60s. And I knew one of the guys really well, and we're on one of the golf tees, and he's probably 65, 66 years old. And he looks at me, he said, "You know, Steve, these golden years really suck," because his body was falling apart on him. He's
yeah, it's
65,
everywhere.
66 years old.
Yep.
He's miserable. They're
Mm,
miserable.
yep.
And I'm 68. I'm healthy. 30 years ago, I went to the doctor and we agreed that in less than 10 years or less, I was going to have a knee replaced because my everything was gone, cartilage and everything.
Yep.
Well, when my wife got sick and I got off of all grains and gluten and glyphosate, okay, my knees don't hurt anymore
Oh my God.
at all, at all. Now, just think of that. I mean, because our bodies are beautifully and wonderfully made.
That is true.
If we don't screw them up, Nathan, all your cells regenerate, all your organs regenerate, all your bones regenerate, your skin regenerates. You know, your skin every 60 days completely starts over. But everything else does as well. And so if we take care of our bodies, they will last a long time.
That's true.
And that's where I want to be,
I got to get you back on,
And
mate. We need to do a part two.
absolutely, absolutely. I've got a lot more to talk about
Oh
when it
no,
comes to a
my
lot of these
my
things.
my dad's your age. It's good to see someone out there that's his age that's fucking vital, healthy, and chasing the dream. I hope my dad listens to this.
Yep.
Shout out to my dad. Hope you're listening. Steve, thank you so much for your time, mate. I really
My
appreciate it.
pleasure.
It was
Yes.
awesome. I just
All right.
we'll have to circle back before the year's out, and we'll nut out some topics to talk about, mate. Because yeah, a lot of people my dad's age and my yeah, I think you've come to me at the right time. I'm gonna get you back on for part two. Appreciate your
Excellent.
time. Appreciate all
I
all
look
you
forward
do,
to it.
and I love that you're breaking that program of you're too old to chase your dream, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I want to say this while we're still on air.
Go for it.
You you are doing fantastic memes. Okay.
No,
You are you excel. And I want to say this to
thanks,
the
mate.
world. You know, if people need this, I mean, as you said, I share most of the memes that I see of yours, I share
Yeah, you do.
because they're great and you
Mm,
do a great job. And they're professional. And I know we got that from Jason, and
we
you took
did.
it to the next level.
Oh,
You
thanks, mate.
did. You do a great job. So, and I'm not sucking up. I enjoy it. I wouldn't share them if I didn't like them. You
Nah, I
know that.
appreciate it, mate. I really do. And
Yep.
yeah, I
You bet.
appreciate your work and all the things you do. I always make sure that when I have a bit of a flick around on posts and stuff that I give your stuff a like or sometimes I'll share it, especially if it's caffeine related too. So I really appreciate what
Yep.
you do as well. It's information that, we get a lot of pushback from, but it's worth sharing and the right person will resonate with it. So this podcast
Yes.
is the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Steve, thank you
Okay.
so much for everything that you're doing, mate. And
My
for
pleasure.
everyone listening, watching around the world, get around Steve's stuff, and I'll chat to you all again soon. Cheers.